Yes! Guess what? Today is the day. The day where it all starts happening. Yeah. Another full day on Nigel, such as the thermostat housing and the inlet manifold gasket. There's a real sense of things happening, of me getting somewhere today, of me not standing still and going nowhere. Brilliant to have a day where I'm not just doing the same thing over and over, and I'm actually getting somewhere. Now then, I'm sorry to confuse you here, but there are two videos that was meant to be released before this one. So there might be a couple of confusing continuity issues here. So let me take a moment to explain. Leaking thermostat housing. Leaking from there. Just leaking basically out. My presumption is it is just the thermostat housing, and I have one of those, so that's fine. Then the 16-inch wheels that this car has been using for a couple of years. It doesn't drive too well on them. There's a couple of tyres that are going bald, and also the offside front wheel keeps going down. It's got a nail in it. I could get it mended, but I did choose instead just to bung on this other set of wheels. And as you can see, this one has a puncture as well. Same wheel, same problem. I'll just get changed into some damp work clothes and I'll tell you what the plan is. The plan's to get warm. Last year, Pride of Longbridge noticed this coolant leak from Nigel at the services, and it turned out to be just the inlet manifold. But I did buy a thermostat housing from DGMR's because that's what I thought it was. And when I took off the inlet manifold, I found it to be that. So I didn't bother changing the thermostat housing because that was fine. And now I think, well, perhaps I should have done, but I was in a bit of a rush at the time. So the plan is quite clear. Change the inlet manifold gasket, change the thermostat housing, and then a couple of easy jobs, such as finally put on that steering wheel that I've been given. And now it's time to go to work. After I pump the tyres up. Inside the box is the thermostat housing. All I've got to do is fit it to Nigel. Now, another thing, there are a few people that will say that you can fit this whilst leaving the inlet manifold on, and I just don't get it. Just don't get how that's easier when it's in the way, and it really is in the way. And it's not that difficult to take the inlet manifold off. Underneath the yellow bonnet we see Nigel's engine with a slightly leaky rocker cover with some blue roll there for checking oil, with an empty expansion tank with its double positive battery setup. Now I would like to have just bought the inlet manifold gasket from DGMR's because, you know, just to support them by buying products off of them, but I want to do it today and I won't be able to get it today. However, I do have to wait until about 3 o'clock this afternoon, which means that if for some reason they can't get it in, I am stuck with a car that doesn't move. But that's a chance I'm just going to have to take, isn't it? I can always put the old one back on and then just take the inlet manifold back off again tomorrow. Anyway, according to the time, it is 11:20, and also according to my Amazon box clock, it is also 11:20. So where will this be by the time I've taken this manifold off? Bear in mind though, of course, this isn't actually a clock, it's just a box with some spanners on. They don't actually work. But as I have taken the inlet manifold off quite a few times before, I'm going to say I will have it off and ready to work on by 10 to 12. Let's see if that's correct. Oh, don't drop them on the floor.
Don't drop them on the floor. Don't drop them on the floor. Oh, you silly boy.
Well, it took a little bit longer than expected because I couldn't find my 13mm ratchet spanner. But actually, once the nut's cracked, a 14mm with a bit of paper in it works fine. Now, actually, the manifold gasket's fine. But we can definitely see down here the coolant is coming from that what do you call it again? Thermostat housing. And that's a good thing because that's what I was expecting. Gloves never want to go back on properly, and at least with this way you can pretend you've had some sort of nasty industrial accident. Off. And there is the old thermostat housing. I suspect it's been leaking. Oh, balls. Oh, it's broken off on the inside. Oh, shit. Well, I suspect it's been leaking there. Anything made of plastic really has a temporary lifespan. Yeah, and I think that's what does happen to them quite a lot. They just go brittle, crack, and leave bits of plastic stuck in the block. So hopefully I can get those out. Don't know where that bit of broken plastic is, but it's not in the block. So that means it's time to bung in the new one. Obviously these are going to be a bit tight, so let's have a little bit of lube. Yeah, little bit of lube for these. Can't do any harm. Once it goes in and it's bolted up, it's not going to slip back out again. Well, that was easy. Bit of Vaseline and it slides right in. Vaseline, good for making things slide in easily. The next bit that is actually a bit awkward is getting these two M8 bolts into the block that hold the metal pipe, because you can't see around the back. So I'm going to try just putting the drill bit in there while I locate the hole. And that might be that might give me a better chance. That worked. And now it's time for a little dilemma. And it is only a little one. This inlet manifold gasket is actually perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's no reason why that should start leaking. Usually you take them off and they've gone a bit baggy and a bit stretched and then start to crumble. And that's why they go wrong in the first place. But that's not doing any of that. So is there really any point in spending another £10 whilst I contemplate this little dilemma? I'm going to have some curry. Balls. Balls and cricket bats! Oh, that's what you call a homemade curry. Time to put the car back together. Getting the inlet manifold bolts back in without dropping them, I still use this old trick of a bit of paper inside the the nut to secure it. I think it was Car Wizard who showed me that. That American bloke with ginger beard. Talks a bit like Kermit the Frog. Right, that's everything put back together again. Just time to put the coolant in and we're good to go. Need to run it up to temperature and be ready with the bleed nipple. Bleed nippers. No, just one nipple. Then I'll change the steering wheel. Oh, I know what I'll do in the meantime. I wonder if I've not plugged something in properly. A bit hesitant there. Run up to temperature quite easily, but there's no heat. So there must be a blockage. Try the old bleed nipple again. At last, heat. I got myself a bit worried then. Yeah, this stuff's pretty good actually. Look at that. That's a lot of bird poo. Good coverage. Nice. I'm expecting a visitor or two. Or three. Joe Cocker, Sophie Ellis Baxter, Neil Diamond.
There's always a problem or two or three or five or seven in the yard. And now
I can't do cat noises at the moment. Come back, Kitty. Come and say hello.
there's always a problem or two or three or five or seven in the yard.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. It's a bit cloudy, isn't it?